Morning, everybody. This is a public decision session under the Portfolio for Environment and Climate Emergency. I'm Councillor Jenny Kent, who holds that portfolio, and welcome to everybody. Nobody here, but anybody watching online. I've also got officers Rhys Williams, James Gilchrist, Mike Southcombe and Andrew Giller. So first of all, there are no apologies for absence, and I have no declarations of interest. So moving straight on, I'm happy to approve the minutes for the decision session on the 19th of November 2024 as being correct. And we have no public speakers. So I'm going to introduce Mike Southcombe and Andy Giller, who are going to talk on the substantive matter today, which is consultation on declaring a statutory smoke controlled area across the whole of York. I'll hand over to you. Oh, is it Andy? Sorry, Andy Giller.
So our report outlines a proposed public consultation on the York-wide smoke control area, which, as we've discussed with you before, is one of the measures in our air quality action plan. So smoke control areas are designated under the Clean Air Act to protect local air quality and health. They essentially introduce rules around the types of fuels that can be burnt at home and on the emission of smoke from chimneys attached to any buildings. So what we know from our research around AQAP4 is that about a third of PM2.5 emissions in York are caused by burning wood for heating. And those emissions that are present in smoke are particularly harmful to health because of their very small size. It means they can get deep into the lungs, they can enter the bloodstream, and they can cause a whole variety of health conditions. So primarily this is a public health issue that we're trying to address. So the situation in York at the moment is that we have multiple smoke control orders covering different areas of the city. They date right back to the 1960s. They cover about 80% of our residential addresses, but only about 14% of our wider area. So by expanding the area to cover the whole of York, we would hope to provide some clarity for the public around the rules for burning, which are currently different in different areas of York. And even on some streets, we have different rules on different sides of the same street. We would hope to ensure the council has a consistent approach to dealing with smoke emissions across all our existing residential areas, but also other areas which are earmarked for development in the future. And it would obviously hopefully act as a deterrent to burning non-authorised fuels or using appliances that haven't been approved by DEFRA that can make air quality worse. So in terms of the public consultation, there's a statutory 6-week consultation process that we have to go through. It's outlined in the report, and then we would propose to bring back the consultation responses to a future decision session. So essentially the paper is seeking approval to start the consultation process, and also seeking authority to make the revocation order for the existing orders that were made prior to November 1980. So that revocation order would need to be confirmed by DEFRA following our local consultation before it would come into effect, essentially. But that is the legal process that we have to make the order first. So happy to take any questions on the report or the process.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very clear. I just really, for the benefit of anybody interested who might watch, I just wanted to clarify. You say you've told us that a third of the small particulate emissions come from wood burning in York, which is really high, and that's in comparison to the amount that comes from transport is around 17%, isn't it? Just to put that in perspective for people, it's almost double, pretty much is double.
Yeah.
The emissions from transport. Okay. So it's not insignificant, is what I'm trying to say. That wood burning is actually the major cause of this particular. Thank you, and just also. Obviously, this is a consultation and we'd have to hear the feedback, so there's no prior judgment about it. But in terms of numbers of households who are going to be affected by this, I think it's right, isn't it? It's about 0.2% of the properties, maybe 98 houses have this are going to be affected in terms of their primary source of wood burning, of heating. Is that right?
So the research that we did, it suggested there were about 1,600 properties outside the existing zone that have the capability of burning solid fuel. So they might have open fires, they might have wood burning stoves. But the energy performance certificate data that we looked at suggested that the vast majority of those use those heating sources as a secondary heating source, i.e. to supplement other forms of heating like central heating. So there were under 100 properties which indicated that they use solid fuels as a primary heat source outside the existing area. And I think there was 39 of those burnt wood. So I guess there are a few scenarios for those properties. Firstly, they might have DEFRA approved stores already, in which case they can continue to burn wood, no real issues. Some of those stoves can be modified with manufacturer supplied kits to make them compliant as a relatively low cost option. Or the other alternative is that they could simply move to burning smokeless fuels. So we don't anticipate it would have major implications for the vast majority of people, although obviously we can't rule out, a handful of people may potentially have to upgrade their stoves if obviously the area was expanded.
Thank you, that's really helpful. And the other point I wanted to make is that it's across York currently. I mean, it's a bit of a lottery postcode, isn't it, as to whether you're going to have clean air or not, or whether you're allowed to burn something or you're not, which is confusing for everybody. But there's also an impact on the suppliers in terms of the smokeless fuel. So if we had a whole city which had the same rules, then all suppliers presumably should be smokeless, which makes it much simpler in terms of accidental purchases of the wrong sort,
yes.
Which is really helpful. Thank you. I don't have any further questions. I'm really happy to support this and approve the option A1 and A2 at paragraph 33 of the report to delegate authority, approve the statutory consultation and delegate authority to the Director of Transport and Environment to carry forward the appropriate legal processes. And I just wanted to highlight that this is supported by our Public Health Directorate because of the impacts on health. It's in terms of affordability, we've discussed that it's only going to affect probably a few number of people, and I know that your department is really good at giving advice and support to people about where they can find grants for alternative forms of heating. And I also note that EPIC, I'm going to get the acronym wrong, but it's community. I'm going to get this wrong. I have to look it up. Environmental Policy Implementation Community. Is that right, Mike? You'll correct me if I'm wrong. Noted that implementation of smoke controlled areas is a double benefit, both for climate in terms of emissions and public health, and is a way of making progress on both. And I think it would be eminently sensible if York could achieve this. So I'm very happy to approve the report and the recommendations recommended. Thank you, everybody. I don't think there's any